Hello there, Year 8. Hope you're keeping well. It's Mrs. Gotham here, ready for your lesson number 3 of Term 5 for Year 8 Distant Learning for English. As I said, I hope you're all keeping well, keeping safe during lockdown. We'll start the video with just a bit of a recap of what we've done so far. So a reminder that Year 8 Term 5 is all about writing to express your viewpoint. So giving your view about real life issues and being able to express that in a convincing and clear and coherent way. So far we have looked at the vocabulary for this term that we'd really encourage you to use. That was lesson 1. And then lesson 2, we were looking at cohesive devices, so things that you can use to link your writing together. A quick reminder that all of our pieces of writing this term we're going to try and base on our big questions or around our big questions. So you can see those on the screen now. A quick reminder: why does society reject people who are different? How do writers present the treatment of different groups of people, and what conclusions should be drawn from this? What are the consequences of keeping people on the outside of society? So as we work towards our piece of writing that we will be doing next week, we're going to be thinking about those questions and how we can do a piece of writing around those. Alright, so lesson 3 is all about something called there's techniques. So there's techniques are techniques that you can use with non-fiction writing. So if you're ever trying to be persuasive or to give information about something real, there's techniques are really useful techniques to be able to use. So you may have heard of some of these before. If you haven't, don't worry. I'm going to start off the lesson by talking you through the different there's techniques. And then today we're going to focus on just 3 of them and how we can use 3 of them in our writing. Alright, so first there's technique we've got is tricolon. So tricolon is 3 words, phrases or ideas that come one after the other as a list or in a sentence. You may also have heard it called rule of 3 or triplets perhaps when you were in primary school, but we tend to go by the phrase or by the term tricolon. Alright, the second one is hyperbole. So hyperbole are exaggerated statements used for emphasis. So if I'm exaggerating something, I'm making it sound more dramatic or more important than it actually probably is in real life. Our third technique is emotive language. So emotive language, think of emotional when you think of emotive language. It's words or phrases deliberately chosen to influence people to feel a certain way. And that feeling can be a range of different feelings, but normally we try and make our readers feel kind of bad or feel sorry or sympathetic for the people or thing in our piece of writing. It is the most common way of using emotive language. The I stands for imperatives. So imperatives, you might sometimes hear them as bossy words or bossy verbs. Sometimes you might have heard them called in primary school. So they give a command or make something sound urgent. So when you're giving a particular instruction to your reader, they're used quite a lot in recipes, but they are very helpful for making your non-fiction writing sound really persuasive. The R stands for rhetorical questions. Hopefully everyone will be familiar with this one. It's a question used to make a point where we don't necessarily expect an answer from our readers. And then the S stands for statistics. So statistics is a piece of data used as evidence to demonstrate an idea. So they normally contain numbers or percentages is a good way to be able to spot a statistic. Alright, so those are our there's techniques. As I said, we're going to particularly look at 3 to be able to use today. So you don't need to have made any notes on that so far, but I will be asking you to make notes on the next few slides. So make sure you've got a pen and paper handy ready to make some notes. Okay, so the first technique we're really going to look at in detail is tricolon. So as I said before, tricolon is 3 words, phrases or ideas that come after one or another in a sentence or a list. And they tend to help to emphasise your point and show its importance. If you're using 3 words or phrases to really emphasise something, it's going to give it importance in your writing. So here is an example. It is dangerous, reckless, and impossible. I've got 3 adjectives here to describe something in a list. That would be a tricolon. Okay, so I'm just going to give you a minute to pause the video and make a note about what a tricolon is, what it does. You can write down the example as well if it's helpful for you. Alright, so hopefully you've made some notes off that slide on what a tricolon is and how to use one. So we're going to move on now and focus on our next one in detail, which today is going to be emotive language. So as I said before, emotive language is words or phrases deliberately chosen to influence people to feel a certain way. Emotive or emotional you can use to help you remember it. So why do we use this? Depending on how you want to make your reader feel, you'll be more likely to persuade them that your view is correct if you try and make them feel a particular way. As I said, normally that can be making them feel sympathetic or sorry for someone or something. If we can really tap into that emotional feeling, it will make your reader more likely to believe you. So here is an example of doing exactly that. People are dying every day because they do not have basic human necessities like clean water and food. You see emotive language used quite a lot in advertisements. If you've seen an advertisement for any kind of charity, they do use emotive language quite a lot. That can be a good way to remember how to use it. Alright, so I'll just give you a minute then to pause the video and make some notes on emotive language, what it is, what it does, and you can write down the example if you want as well. And then when you're ready, unpause the video and continue. Alright, so hopefully you've had a go at making some notes on emotive language. Let's move on to our third one that we're going to look at in detail today, which is imperatives. So as I said before, imperatives are given when you give a command to your reader. They're useful because they make something sound urgent and necessary, which is often what you're trying to do in non-fiction persuasive writing, is make something sound really urgent. Here is an example. We must act now to stop plastic from entering our oceans. So the imperative here, the thing giving the action or the command, we must act now. Okay, so 1 minute to make some notes off that slide about imperatives, what it is. You can write down the example if you want as well. So pause the video in order to do that. Alright, so hopefully you have paused the video, you've made some notes on what imperatives are and how to use them. So I'm now going to give you a bit of a quiz. So on the screen now you can see a grid, and on that grid we've got the techniques down the left-hand side, and the definitions and the examples. But at the moment they're all not in the right order. So you need to put them into the right order. Now how I would suggest doing this is probably by numbering them. I'm just going to show you how I would do the first one. So for example, I would make tricolon number 1. I would then look for my definition when I think I found tricolon. I'd put a number 1 next to that. So here, 3 words, phrases or ideas. And then I'll find my example on the right hand side. So I suggest you pause the video here. If you're able to print out this slide, that is quite useful to be able to write on it, but if not, you can just do it on the screen or you can make notes on your page as well. It's absolutely fine. And when you think you've matched them all up, you can unpause the video so that we can go through them together. Alright, so hopefully you have paused the video and you have had a go at matching those up with the techniques, the definition and the example. So let's go through the answers now. So I'd already done tricolon. It is 3 words or phrases or ideas that come one after another in a list or in a sentence. And the example is, it's dangerous, reckless and irresponsible. So we've got 3 things in a list there. Okay, number 2 is hyperbole. So hyperbole is exaggerated statements used for emphasis and for effect. And then the example here is computer games are poisoning young people's minds. So that is quite an exaggerated statement, the fact that it's poisoning them. It's not actually literally doing that, so it's also a metaphor, but it's quite exaggerated. Okay, number 3 is emotive language. So hopefully you got that emotive language is words or phrases deliberately chosen to make you feel a certain way. And the example hopefully you got is this one. People are dying every day because they do not have basic human necessities like clean water and food. So they're trying to make us feel sympathetic or feel particularly bad for the people being described here. Okay, number 4 is imperative. So imperatives are commands. So you should have got this one here for number 4. And then the example, we must act now to stop plastic from entering our oceans. So it's giving us a command, what we have to do. Okay, number 5 is rhetorical question. So we should have had a question asked to create dramatic effects. And then the example, how can we stand back and let this happen? And then number 6, statistic, is a piece of data uses evidence. And the example you should have got is more than 90% of people believe that their National Health Service offers an excellent level of care to all. Alright, so I'll just leave that up on the screen for a minute if you'd like to pause the video and just double check your answers. Make sure that you've got all of those correctly, either written down or matched up if you've managed to print the slide. And then when you're happy that you've got all of the answers correct, you can unpause the video and carry on to listen. Alright, so hopefully you have paused the video, you've made sure you've got all your answers correct. So we're now going to move on to some practice. So we're going to do 3 practices on the DARES techniques. I'm going to give you a topic, and then I'm going to ask you to write a tricolon, emotive language, and imperative about that topic. You'll see from this slide that I've given you sentence starters. I'm going to give you sentence starters for the first 3, and I'm going to remove them for the third one so that you really are having a go at doing them on your own. So the first topic that I'd ask you to write some DARES techniques about is treating people like outsiders, links to our big questions. So I would like you to begin your tricolon with keeping people on the outside of society is. We need 3 things in a list there. Emotive language, people who are kept on the outside of society. Can you describe them, making us feel a particular way about them, probably sympathetic? And then imperative, we must, what must we do? Give a command or order about how we can treat people as outsiders, or how we can treat those people better in society. So a chance to pause the video now. You're writing a tricolon, emotive language, and imperative about treating people like outsiders. Alright, so hopefully you've had a go. You should have written a tricolon, an emotive language, and imperative on your piece of paper. So what could you have had? I'll give you some examples, but as long as you've got something along these lines, that's absolutely fine. So tricolon, you could have had keeping people on the outside of society is harmful, disrespectful, and unnecessary. That would be 3 things that I could use to describe it. Emotive language, I could say something like people who are kept on the outside of society feel isolated and they languish with no support. To use one of our vocabulary words from week 1, languish. That would make us feel sympathetic or feel bad for them. And then imperative, we must take action to stop people feeling like they are outsiders. So as long as you've got something along those lines, that sounds good. Okay, so second practice. So the topic for the second load of techniques is going to be looking after the environment for future generations. I want you to start your tricolon with the environment. I'm taking a little bit away this time. I want you to start your emotive language with when I think about. So again, you've got slightly less of a sentence starter there. And then I want you to start your imperative with just we. So again, you've got a bit more freedom there for that one. So you're writing a tricolon, emotive language, and imperative about looking after the environment. Pause the video now to have a go at that, and then when you're ready, unpause and carry on. Alright, so hopefully you've now paused and you've written down a tricolon, an emotive language, and an imperative about the environment. So what could you have had then? For tricolon, you could have had something like the environment is essential, vital, and of great importance for us as human beings. That'd be 3 things to describe the environment as a tricolon. For emotive language, you could have had something like, when I think about the way people treat the environment poorly, it causes me to feel enraged because I worry about future generations losing out and missing out and suffering because of what we've done. So there, that would make us feel sympathetic or feel bad for the future generations who might suffer. And then imperative, we could have something like, we have to look after the environment for future generations. That would be a command there. All right, and practice number 3, the topic is going to be bullying. Again, kind of links to our big questions on how we treat different groups of people. So this time I've not given you any sentence starters. This is the third one to practice. So hopefully you can have a go at this time at doing a tricolon, an emotive language and imperative without needing a sentence starter. But if you do find that you need a sentence starter, you could have a look at the 2 previous ones and kind of tweak the sentence starters from those to help you with these. Okay, so pause the video now, have a go at tricolon, emotive language and imperative to describe bullying. Alright, so hopefully you've had a go at doing that. You've paused the video and you should have in front of you a tricolon, an emotive language and imperative all about bullying. So what could you have had? So for tricolon, bullying is unfair, unnecessary and makes people feel isolated. That would be 3 things. That would also be an example of emotive language, but if we wanted a different example, we could have something like, people who are bullied feel isolated from society and it's not fair to treat them in this way. That would be making us feel sorry for them. If we had an imperative, it could be something like, we have to make sure that we stop bullying to make sure these people don't feel like outsiders anymore. That would be a command. So hopefully you found that activity useful for practicing writing a tricolon, emotive language and an imperative, and that you've got lots of those down on your page now. If you wanted to extend your work on this, you could continue thinking of different topics and writing tricolon, emotive language and imperative for each till you become really, really confident with those. And if you found this activity hard, I'd suggest continuing to keep at it, especially using the sentence starters that I provided you and also using the examples that I've given you in the video to help. So if you're ready to move on then, I'm now going to give you a waggle paragraph using some there's techniques. Alright, so I've written my one about plastic harming the environment, as you can see here. So I'm going to read it out to you and I'm going to be asking you to look for the different there's techniques and to label them. So if you do have a printer and you can print this slide, that would be helpful. Or if you've just got a pen and paper, then you can note down what you think are the different there's techniques. So I'll read it out for you first of all, and then we'll go through together and have a look for them. So, did you know that the thing most harming our oceans at the moment is our overuse of plastic? If you didn't, this is caused mostly by our reliance on plastic bottles. They're essential for our lives as they provide us with much needed water throughout the day. However, scientists have proven that there is a simple solution to this problem. Just in the last year, 100,000 reusable bottles have been bought in the UK, and scientists believe that this will drastically decrease the plastic waste in our oceans if this trend spreads across the world. Surely we want animals in the oceans to be able to live a free and happy life without the danger that plastic can cause them. I think all of us would agree that this is vital, and therefore I implore you to have a go and buy your own reusable bottle today. It could change your life. Buy one today, drink from one today, help the planet to have a better tomorrow. Alright, so here are the techniques we're looking for. I'll give you a few minutes to pause the video and to try and look for those techniques in the paragraph. If you want to challenge yourself as well, you could also be looking for some cohesive devices, which we looked at last year, last lesson even. There are plenty of those in the video as well as there's techniques. So pause the video. Can we find tricolon, hyperbole, emotive language, imperatives, rhetorical question and statistic? Okay, so hopefully you've paused the video and you've found all of these techniques in the video. So now we're going to go through together and label these in the video. So I'm going to start with tricolon. So I'm looking for 3 things. My tricolon is actually the last sentence. Buy one today, drink from one today, help the planet to have a better tomorrow. We've got 3 things there in a list to describe the effects of having or using a plastic bottle. A reusable plastic bottle. Okay, emotive language, language to make you feel emotional, is the bit describing the animals. So surely we want animals in the ocean to be able to live a free and happy life without the danger that plastic can cause them. So we're making our readers here feel sorry for the animals that we are subjecting to this poor treatment by filling their oceans with plastic. Rhetorical question is right at the top. So did you know that the thing most harming our oceans at the moment is overuse of plastic? Our hyperbole, so something that is exaggerated, is the phrase "it could change your life." So that's exaggerated as it's probably unlikely that a reusable bottle is going to completely change your life. But here we're suggesting that's how important it is. The imperative is I implore you to have a go and buy your own reusable bottle today. So I'm giving the instruction for them to go and buy their own reusable bottle. And then last but not least, we've got statistic. So the statistic we've got here is just in the last year, 100,000 reusable bottles have been bought in the UK. It's got our number in it, 100,000. All right, so hopefully your paragraph is looking something labelled a little bit like that. You will notice when you can see all these colours that there are gaps between the theirs techniques where I've explained or developed on my point. So it is important that in our paragraph it isn't just a list of one after another theirs techniques. We do have to have other sentences that develop on our point and expand on our point as we go as well. That's a really helpful way to know how to use successful theirs techniques. Well done if you spotted some cohesive devices as well. There were plenty of connectives in there, like if and however. There were also lots of pronouns in here, like I and this and they and it. There were lots of repeated keywords as well. Plastic bottles, bottle, reusable bottle was used quite a lot. And then synonyms as well to describe things. So especially danger and harming are all things that plastic is doing to our oceans, but they're synonyms. And then we've also got synonyms for the word important, like essential and vital, which are used throughout the paragraph as well. So well done if you also found some cohesive devices here too. Alright, so if you've made it this far in the lesson, that's the end of our lesson today on theirs techniques. So next week we're going to be putting this all together, so putting together our vocabulary, our cohesive devices that we've learned, and putting together our theirs techniques to write a couple of paragraphs yourself about something to do with one of the big questions. Also remember, once you've finished this video, there's a quiz to have a go at on cohesive devices and theirs techniques as well, which your teacher will be having a look at to see how you've got on. So well done, Year 8. Keep well, and I'll see you again next week, or I'll hear you again next week for next week's task.